Hi everyone, welcome back to the Part of the Pros podcast. It's our first pod in 2024. Super excited to be back. For those of you just tuning in, this is a podcast series where I sit down with some of the most talented and successful execs in sports entertainment, learning about their journeys so far, the path to success in the sports and entertainment industry, as well as career-related topics as well. Today, I'm sat with Jade Burroughs, someone who started her career as a marketing intern at the Philadelphia Eagles and is now a VP and Chief of Staff at the NFL League Office. Jade, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Of course. Jade, question I always love to get these things kicked off with. You can take us back to the start of your career. How did you first get into sports? Was it something you'd always wanted to do? And just talk us through the beginning of your journey there.
Yeah, so I grew up in a big household. I'm one of seven children, and to keep us busy, my parents kept us in sports. I was always an athlete growing up, in and around sports. Loved playing, loved to stay active. My dad would also train athletes, so I would kind of help him out with, that process and being a part of it and in and around it. And I knew that that was an area that I wanted to continue to be a part of, whether, if not as a professional or continuing to play, but also kind of working in that area. So when I went to Lehigh, I actually studied marketing, didn't study sports specific because I also still wanted to kind of keep my options open in case that was not something that I eventually still wanted to do, but just stayed close to sport and worked in the athletic department at Lehigh, got a marketing degree, and was fortunate enough through hard work and networking and kind of perseverance to be able to build this 15, 16, 17, however long year career that I've been able to build in that industry that's taken me from as college athletics to agency side working with some brands and then now currently in the professional ranks with the National Football League. So been able to have some really, really cool experiences in the sport world, just also kind of channeling that drive as a young girl, loving sports and wanting to be around it.
I always love those the stories or the things that you don't really see, on paper or on a resume or a LinkedIn profile around why someone actually got into it in the first place. So it's really interesting to hear that about your family and, growing up in that industry, thinking one thing of, maybe I do make it as an athlete, maybe I make it pro, and that's the ideal. But at the same time, knowing that there is something else that you can go out and do on the business side is certainly a good secondary option. To
Yeah,
say
and
the least.
also, I mean, I don't know if I knew the opportunities that I have now even existed when I first started. But I think for me, it was always just trying to stay close and again, working hard, meeting people, seeing what they do, and getting an idea of, okay, this aspect of what I am doing right now, I enjoy. This maybe not so much. Let me try to do a little bit more of this. So I've been able to kind of throughout my journey, pivot in different areas that kind of pique my interest and give me different opportunities to grow. So yeah,
And
didn't know my job even existed growing
yeah.
up, but
Yeah, I
yeah.
think most people don't, to be honest with you, in the industry. It's one of the areas that, hopefully through the use of this podcast and other platforms, we can try and educate more and more people on the fact that these opportunities are out there. Jade, you've worked for the likes of the Eagles, the Big Ten Conference, Van Wagner Sport, and obviously now at the NFL League Office. I can imagine it's been a crazy journey, lots of ups, lots of downs. Talk us through some of the kind of key, career achievements, highlights, the things that you look back on that you say, what, I'm really proud and glad that I've got to where I am today through these efforts.
Yeah, I've had a lot of ups and obviously downs come with it and our learning experiences, but I've been able to be a part of really amazing experiences with amazing people and working with great teams. Teams as far as like the people that you work with every day and you kind of get things done. When I was at a work agency for Nike basketball, I was a part of a team that took a group of high school students, really good basketball players, to Turkey to
Wow.
shadow the USA basketball team. And I was able to be a part of that experience to take these New York City guys that play basketball that were really good to an international experience and kind of see basketball through their eyes and on a different landscape. At the Big Ten Conference, I was there during the time that we had just added Nebraska. We had a big logo change and our first football championship game. And then fast forward a few more years when we added Maryland and Rutgers and increased our footprint, and I was in our branding department. So being on the front line with all those changes, working with the schools and our partners and our broadcast and everything, being able to be a part of those huge moments and doing a lot of work to get things off the ground, but also being able to see the impact that sport can have on people. And, it's just been a really cool journey. And even here now at the NFL, being able to be a part of so many really cool experiences. Like the NFL is larger than life. And being someone, I am a big Birds fan, go Birds, being someone that kind of grew up watching football on Sundays, but now being in a role in football operations where I'm in competition committee meetings. I see how a rule gets changed. I see how the game continues to evolve, and being a part of those conversations and having influence. That to me is really cool. Being able to impact a sport that I love and a game that I've watched forever, and work with some really, really smart people, listening to Hall of Fame players and coaches and how they think about the game. It's been a really cool learning experience for me. As far as like what I think I'm most proud of is just being in this position and being able to show others that look like me or maybe aren't unsure of if they're able to be in this role, that it's possible. You work hard, you prove yourself, you're able to kind of do things that you may not have dreamed of, but being able to be that representation to others is something that I'm really proud of. And I try to mentor as much as I can to show others that that this is something that they can do. And so yeah, I think for me, hearing others reach out to me or talking to others to be able to provide some impact to them just based off of the successes and the hard work that I've put in is probably most validating.
And it's good to see others recognize that as well. Obviously, being featured in the Elite 100 on that list last year, 2022, I believe it was. Probably a great moment for you to look back and say, hey, you know what, this is great. Exactly what you just said, right? That other people that are out there that think maybe these opportunities aren't there for me, to say that you're, living proof that they are.
Yeah, and a lot of work that I do is, as a chief of staff in my current role, is a lot of behind the scene work, a lot of whether it's influencing, preparing, working with our senior leadership team here in football operations, but also our EVP here that is very intentional about the, football inclusion, football for all, making sure that we're intentional about building a pipeline, whether it's on the business side or professional side of people coming up to work in our office and at our clubs, but also the coaching ranks and women in football and things like that. So I've been able to be really have a hand in that and kind of behind the scenes help push some of those those things forward. So it's cool sometimes to get recognized for that.
Yeah, no, I love it. That's great. And by the way, just to take it back a couple of steps, that trip to Turkey sounds like would have been incredible. Seeing their
That was
faces, seeing
absolutely
the
amazing.
excitement, the everything that surrounded that. Yeah, I think that they're, some of the biggest things that, career achievements, can always be subjected to, what did I go out and achieve in terms of, I don't know, this partnership deal or this, new rebranding of an organization that we've done, but to actually see the faces of those kids, high school players, all trying to make it big, shadowing the USA national team on international territory must have been an
Yeah.
incredible experience.
And I think for me, working in sports is a grind. Like we
Yeah.
work crazy hours. We sacrifice a lot of time with friends and family, holidays, things like that. But if you're not able to enjoy those moments, where it is you're at this great experience that you wouldn't have else otherwise, or you're enjoying the kickoff of Super Bowl or, things like that. If you're not able to enjoy that, then sports is probably not for you because you put so much time into getting to those moments. But yeah, that Turkey trip was absolutely unbelievable.
I bet. Topic I'd love to talk about today, Jade, is just I guess on the note of what you're just speaking about there. I think we're kind of trained and ingrained in us from an early age where you go and, you study law, you're going to become a senior legal counsel or a chief legal officer. You study marketing, you're going to go and be a big marketer. And I think you're a very good example of someone who, looking at your background, you started off in marketing, you're now, a chief of staff for the EVP of football operations at the NFL league office, and you haven't necessarily had the most direct path to get there, right? And I think it'd be a great opportunity, for you to maybe just talk about your experience and the kind of transitions that you've made. Because I think one thing that you mentioned earlier that really stood out to me was, just because I'm in this role right now and I'm enjoying parts of it, doesn't mean I have to continue doing the entirety of it. So maybe I can take the good things out of this, but in this role, maybe I'm going to be doing much more of the things that I do enjoy doing. So I would love to just get your kind of take on, I guess, how other individuals can embrace and try and navigate a maybe non-traditional route to the top.
Yeah, and I always tell people it's okay to not know what you want to be when you grow up. And I'm honestly still trying to figure that out. I think early on, and I want to say again, when I was younger, I was like, oh, maybe I want to be a sports agent because I saw I don't know if you remember the HBO series Our List, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. But then as I started to get into sports, I was like, oh, maybe I'm too nice to be a sports agent. Now looking back on it, I'm like, I can turn it on and off. I could do that if I want to. But for me, it's always been like, I know what industry I want to be in. I have these certain skills. I have certain things that I enjoy doing. And sometimes in sports, like, obviously when you're starting out your career, positions are hard to come by. It's
Yep.
hard to get your foot in the door. But I always knew when I did get my opportunity, I'm going to outwork everyone. I am smart. I can think on my feet. I know how to problem solve. So those different things have helped me kind of navigate and grow in my career. And I've never been afraid to take risks. I've had really good opportunities that I could have stayed at a little bit longer or continued to be in different roles that, I just decided that, okay, I've learned what I've learned here. This other opportunity has presented itself. Maybe it's time to take that step. And I think a lot of that for me, my different changes in my career has come through my network. I've been fortunate enough to have the ability to make really good relationships with people and relationships in a way that aren't transactional, but, really good intentional relationships with people. And they've kind of recognized what the value that I can bring to whether it's a project, organization, things like that. So every opportunity I've had outside of my first job out of school was through my network of someone recognizing the skills or the talents that I've had and wanting me to either come work for them or help them in a certain capacity. And when the time has been right, I've, felt confident enough in myself to make a leap to do something else and try something different. I think probably the most uncomfortable thing I did was when I went to Van Wagner from the Big Ten, which I loved my job at the Big Ten. And I really enjoyed working with my manager there, my group there, and in branding. It was something that I really liked. But also at a conference office, very small office, and not much for me at the time in my mind. I couldn't, the growth wasn't there for me. I could stay in that role for another 5-10 years and kind of be doing the same thing, which again was great, but I knew like, hey, okay, this is a great opportunity that'll allow me to learn some more things and grow in a different way that, I'm not a salesperson, but let me try this because I know the product, I know the guys. And I'd be selling to people that are my friends, people in the industry that, kind of have done what I had done in that conference world and college sports world. So I was able to kind of check sales off of my list in a way that, was fun and natural and good for me. But yeah, that was me just having the confidence that like, okay, I'll figure this out. And if I don't, I have people in my world that I can fall back on. I could go back to the conference or do something else and then again, when this NFL experience or opportunity came up, which is very different in operations from my background that I've had before, someone approached me about joining a football strategy group. And I'm like, okay, I looked at the job description and I'm like, this doesn't even really match with anything I've ever done. But they assured me that they just want someone on their team that has a little bit of different perspective and can think and learn and grow within the organization. And I took the leap, and I've been able to have really good success here. And same thing with this chief of staff role. Troy Vincent, our EVP, asked me one day if I wanted to be a chief of staff. And it's like, sure, I'll figure this out. And 4 years later, I've been able to, help our department be more efficient and help him grow as an executive here too. So yeah, just not being afraid to try different things. And my path may be all over the place. My resume is, if you're looking at it, you might be like, why? How did you go from here to here? But in my story and everything that I've learned has helped me be who I am every day in this role. So my experience in branding has helped me sometimes on the day to day and think different ways in my current role. So my path has been all over the place, but again, being able to use my skills and continue to grow. If I'm in a place where I don't feel like I'm learning and still being challenged, then it's probably time for me to move on.
That makes complete sense. And I think it's probably fair to say, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Jay, but I think it's fair to say that it doesn't sound like you've, and you mentioned this at the very beginning of what you were saying, it doesn't sound like you've always known what the next step is or what you've wanted to do, but you've actually very wisely used the advice and counsel of your peers, your mentors, your relationships in the industry who have, been there and done that and have seen others go through that process to actually use them as, guidance, if you like, to help get to what your next step is, which you've, inevitably, as you just said, you've found yourself landing at, one of the most, if not the most recognized, league office in the world, and working in a very exciting opportunity that kind of sounds like it's almost a bit of a blend between everything you've done in the past, right? The branding side that you just touched on, the sales element. Whilst you might not be a salesperson, you would have learned the hard resistance that comes with being a salesperson.
Right. And
And that
listening to
obviously
the
helps you
client
build
to hear what they
relationships.
need.
Right. Right. So, one thing to say is it doesn't mean that people that are out there that are thinking about what their next step is, it doesn't mean it's always got to be black and white. It doesn't mean that if you're a director of a certain role now, the next natural step is to be a senior director. There are other things out there. Maybe use the people in your network and your mentors to help you get there. I speak to a lot of people who sometimes feel a bit stuck in their current role. They're almost a bit hesitant to pursue a different, path due to maybe fear of starting over again, or maybe sometimes talk to me about I need to take a step back in order to take a step forward. Do you think that that's kind of always the case, or do you think there's the opportunity where I think trying to find the balance for a lot of people between being patient and waiting for the right thing versus I just don't want to be doing this anymore and I need to make a jump? There's quite a fine balance between the two, and trying to navigate that can sometimes be quite challenging. So we'd love to just get your take on, maybe advice that you may have for people in those situations and how you feel they can come out positively.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times people do mention kind of, to if they're outside of sports to get in sports do they need to take a step back? What I've done as I've navigated my career, I've always made sure if I'm taking a step in a different direction, it's not a lateral step. I've always taken a step forward. For me, I've had the benefit of being in good spaces. So when I've made the change, it wasn't because I had to, it's because I wanted to. So I've been able to kind of different opportunities come my way, be able to figure out if that's the direction I want to go in. And I haven't made a lateral move. I've always made a move in the right direction for me, because again, as I said, I was in a situations where things were good. Let's just make them better. But I think for people, if just make sure that you are clear. Grass is not always greener. And as you look at the world of social media and how people portray what they're doing, it's very different than the day-to-day grind of being in a role. As I said, especially in sports, like you work hard. We work while people want to be entertained. So there are long nights, there are weekends, and there are things like that that you have to sacrifice. So as you may see someone portraying, what their career or experience may be on LinkedIn or Instagram or something may be very different from what their day-to-day actually is. So make sure if you're making a career transition, you're very clear on what the implications of that would be. And are you willing to put in the work to grind to get to the next level, or you want to do this role as a day to day? For me, I think it's important that I continue to learn and grow. Like, I'm not just doing my role, I'm also learning the business,
Yeah.
learning the sport, learning whatever industry I'm in. So I am able to pivot. I do have additional skills in just what I'm doing. Like, if I'm stagnant, okay, how else can I help the organization? How can I problem solve? How can I fill in some gaps here or there to make others' lives easier? That's how you stick out. That's how you continue to get ahead.
How do you think companies can, in support and everything that you just said there, how can companies create a culture or an environment that I guess supports and encourages their employees to try and explore different roles within the organization, or to try and look at different paths? Because I think that's one thing that a lot of businesses do very well at a junior level. You've got your grads, they come in, they do a year or two in one area, maybe they transition them into a different area. But I think that's something that we're starting to see a lot more of at the senior level now as well. We're seeing a lot of people that are coming into the sports industry with no sports experience at C level. I know a few people, a few friends in the industry that have made that transition. But do you think that there is anything, I guess, more or different, or maybe it'd be interesting to get your take on how you guys do it at the NFL, is to create that environment where people can be encouraged to go and consider different things that maybe aren't as linear as they may think initially?
Yeah, I think it's been different at every place that I've been. And I think a lot of times it's kind of on the individual to take that initiative to kind of learn and explore other areas. I do think our team here does a really good job of providing, whether it's opportunities to do external learning programs. We have different things that you can learn if you're interested in, and seek it out, whether it's skills, or I've done a couple graduate type programs that we've sponsored here with NYU. I did one with Dartmouth in the Wise Women's program. But we have different things that if you're someone that's high potential, or you're someone that works hard, that you can seek out those opportunities. But again, a lot of it is you being intentional about your career, you seeking out those opportunities to grow, and finding those mentors within your building. A lot of people outside of our department seek out our EVP because in football ops, because he's open to meet with people and talk to them about football and about what we do on this side. But it's also talking to the head of media and just getting a feel for what they do. Or if it's not even the head, it's people in that department. And we have a lot of cross organizational work that you have the opportunity to work with others across the building. And I think you just have to be intentional about that, but and take advantage of programs at your organization, or always I don't know, put the pressure on them to develop you. For every year with my goals, with each organization, one of my goals is a professional development goal. That is a professional development goal for me. And obviously, if I'm developed, it helps the organization, but
Right.
and I task my manager or the organization to help me get there. So it's just being intentional about that and not staying stagnant.
I think there's a lot of really good advice in there for everyone listening. But I think there's one underlying thing that kind of really stood out to me in everything that you were saying. And I think just building relationships with people in different departments outside of your own generally is probably a wise thing to do if you're thinking about maybe moving into a different area. You're in a marketing role, maybe you really like sales. You should be really doing your best to build relationships with the sales team, with the head of the sales department, making them aware of the fact that providing this, you've got an open collaboration environment, and you should be communicating that to your manager or your direct report, and saying to them, look, I'm thinking about making a move into this area. If any opportunities come up there, make sure to let me know. We'd love to consider them. I think the best place that you can start if you're in that position is probably internally before looking external. You've got great relationships there already. They know you. They know you're a hard worker. They know you're successful. You've done a lot for them already, so they're probably more likely to consider that transition for you. Whereas, if you're thinking about doing that on an external basis, there are probably 101 other people that are more aligned to a search, so they're probably going to go with one of those. versus taking a bit of a, quote unquote risk in someone who maybe not doesn't have that direct experience. That's really helpful to know.
I would even say, in addition to that, I think it's not always about how do I make this jump. It's also the way you can approach it is more so how do I learn more about what you do so I can do my job better? If I'm more familiar about what the marketing team is doing, I can connect it better to what we're doing. We could tell better football stories as an example, or from the external side, I have counterparts at other league offices. What are you guys doing? What are your best practices over there that help you from an operational standpoint? Or what are some of your pain points? How do you do this? So building those relationships that way where it's beneficial on both ends, where you can help them with the things that you're doing, which again makes both of your jobs easier, but also connects it in a way that you come on their radar. You're someone that they know. You're someone that they can trust, or you can kind of get a feel for how people think. So that's kind of how I've navigated this industry, because it's all like, hey, let's help each other, but let's all continue to grow. And if I can make your life easier and you can make my life easier, we all win.
100%, 100% collaborative, to say the least.
Right. But you come to mind if there's like, oh, there's a job opening. I
Exactly.
talk to this person all the time.
Exactly. It swings around and roundabouts for sure. Jade, last question we'll leave you with today. I guess any advice or any tips that you may have for people that are out there, they're in that situation of thinking about doing something different, or maybe they don't know what their next step is and they just feel a little stuck in where they are. They've tried a few different things that haven't quite worked out for them, but just any kind of general advice to those people that might help them in their decision making process.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, God, it's being in my role every day is an adventure. So depending on what day you ask me, it's how can my level of positivity can vary. But I would say again, don't just make a move to make a move. Be intentional about your career. Think about the long term. Continue to grow your network, meet people, stay connected to your network. And continue to learn. And when you do get that opportunity, or in your current opportunity, work hard, be smart. Like not common sense is not common. So, if you have a skill that is valuable and, something that maybe a lot of other people don't know, kind of lean into those different things that make you you and can help other people, other organizations succeed. And yeah, I think it's obviously hard out here. It's, an interesting time for the economy and all that, but just make sure that you're continuing to be intentional about who you are and what you can do and be honest with yourself, but continue to learn. I think that's the best I can say.
There you have it, guys. Some great advice, some great words of wisdom from someone who's been there and seen it all, to say the least, over the course of her career. So, Jade, thank you so much for joining us. For anyone listening, Jade will be tagged on LinkedIn, on socials. I'm sure she's open to conversations for people that are open to considering opportunities within the NFL League office as well. And yeah, like I said, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Of course. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back soon with another episode.